Hey, 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 happy Thursday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, interestingly enough, the GamingGang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief, as well as Roll for Combat, home of the new Kickstarter for Year of Titans in 3D. And we'll be talking about the sponsor in just a few moments. But first of all, just wanted to welcome everybody aboard. Tonight is Thursday, November 14th, 2024. And this is live stream 1121. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And then I will normally pontificate about a topic related to our hobby, which I shall be doing tonight. In fact, I'm about to ponder, is the future of tabletop gaming doomed? Doomed, I say. So we'll be discussing that once we tackle tonight's tabletop gaming news. But of course, when you're not watching videos here on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Also, because this is a live show, that means there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay, and you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least 10 minutes before you can take part in chat. Yet another way I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you check both those boxes and you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my absolute best to respond. First out of the gates, tonight is good friend of the show, the Madman. That's right, the Motor City Madman himself, the real Motor City Madman, not that fucking knucklehead. Now we're trying. It's our Madman. That's right, our Motor City Madman. He also happens to be one of our chat moderators. Kathy Evans is also with us, as is Kevin King, Gleewood RX, Bradley Thorpe, Sean O'Donnell, and Mike is with us tonight, too, so far. Very nice. Raven is popping on in, asking, is gaming doomed? That's a lot of exclamation points, question marks after that. It says, with a lot of RPG sessions moving to online, maybe not. Well, if it's moving online, then it's not tabletop, then, is it? Keyword there, tabletop. All right. Anyway, I would also take a guess that the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D is probably lurking, doing her Plan 9 from outer space Bela Lugosi impersonation in the shadows with her glittery banhammer. That might be going on. Don't know. We'll find out in a moment if Sarah D chimes in or not. So, howdy, everybody. I know it is a topic that I kind of kicked around yesterday. Do I want to broach this topic? Do I not want to broach this topic? We are going to talk about this because there are some signs that the health of the hobby is not good. So we're going to get on into that. You know me, I'm not super Mr. like gloom and doom or anything like that. But I mean, I'm also not, whistling zippity doodah out my asshole either. So there's also that. So anyway, so we're going to talk about that. It's not going to be all bad news, though. It's actually going to kind of segue into Tuesday's topic. And then next week on Thursday, a week from today, I'm going to kick off something I think you might enjoy. And we're going to do it every Thursday for a few weeks. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But first, let's talk about our sponsor. That's right, Roll for Combat and their Year of Titans Kickstarter, which launched earlier this week. 13 new playable species, new ancestries designed to be delivered each and every month right to your email box in 2025. You'll find unique species and subspecies you can't get anywhere else. And you're also going to find that these include extensively developed lore, fully developed cultural insights, ancestral feats. For the Dungeons and Dragons versions, you'll have new backgrounds. Over 20 tokens will be included for each of these species with a variety of character options. And of course, this is designed for either 5e Dungeons and Dragons, which also means it's perfectly fine for 5.5 Dungeons and Dragons, other 5e adjacent fantasy role-playing games. And of course, it is also designed for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. In fact, that Pathfinder 2nd Edition will include free ancestry for each of the species. You'll even have access to the development team. Yes, as I've mentioned before, if you back this Kickstarter, you will receive Stephen Glicker's home phone number, which you may call at any time of day with whatever questions you might happen to have about Year of Titans. Would I lie about something like that? Absolutely not. Certainly not. So, of course, this funded within its first, 20 minutes. You can reserve your copy of Year of Titans for Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder. Now, you can do this in PDF or for the Foundry Virtual Tabletop. So you can get the flavor that you'd like for Foundry or just in PDF for a $59 pledge. You can get both the PDFs and the VTT elements together for a $99 pledge through December 12th. And delivery will begin with two species in January, because you're actually going to be getting a baker's dozen. You are going to get 13 species, not 12, 13. So you're going to kick off things with 2 in January. Very, very nice. As Stephen from Roll for Combat comes floating on in. In fact, he might just be giving his phone number out here in chat to everybody so that they can give him a call if they've got any questions about Year of Titans. How about that? That's pretty swell. I think that's really nice of Stephen. Kudos to you, Stephen, for doing that. And of course, you may have seen this the other night when I revealed it. And you're thinking, Jeff, how is it possible that you have Year of Titans in hardcover when these are going to be PDF releases? These are digital items. And the answer is simple. One word: magic. So a big thank you to Roll for Combat for being our sponsor. And if you have not checked out Year of Titans, give it a peek. There's some pretty wild species there. We've got living spells. Wow. That's kind of crazy. Kind of wild. Kind of crazy. All right, let's see who we've got rocking on into chat outside of Stephen from Roll for Combat. Pete Drakulich has popped on in, as has Chris Lundgren. And he is also with his cockatiel buddy. Hello, buddy. So welcome to you all. Chris Leonard says it's not real. It's a mimic of the rules book. Well, I have the mimic behind me. Dun, 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 which actually came from Stephen from Roll for Combat, because this was a special add-on. I think if you had, if I remember correctly, if you had pledged support, I think it was in the first 48 or 72 hours of a previous Kickstarter that Roll for Combat did. You got your hands on one of those. Stephen was kind enough to send one along. Very nice, very nice. All right, let's jump on into the news, because the Dreams and Machines role-playing game is receiving a new print supplement from Modiphius Entertainment next month. And here's what I know about the Armada Valo setting guide. Ruins of Paradise, the city of sighs. As in, almost 30 miles wide, the city of Ermerda dominates the Ermerda Valo region of Ivera Prime, built as a technologically advanced paradise by the Inverans of old. Every aspect of the city's design was intended to be perfect, from its pristine and clear spaces and its beautiful boulevards to its towering buildings and idyllic homes. Life in Ermerda was one of the utmost luxury. But when the Builders' War broke out, Ermerda and many other metropolises like it became brutal and bloody battlegrounds as the mechs that had once supported life obliterated it with ruthless efficiency and single-minded purpose. Since then, Ermerda has sat empty, bereft of life, but with untold treasures, mysteries, and dangers lurking within. These ancient ruins and all that reside within them await any who are bold enough to explore them. The Ermerda Valo Setting Guide, the latest expansion for Dreams and Machines, takes players and game masters alike deep into a brand new slice of Ivera Prime. This book provides enterprising game masters with all the information they need to transport their players to the ruined streets of the City of Sighs and the wider Ermerda Valo region around it. Also included are several write-ups of existing locations from Regis Philbin Castell, for you to use in your adventures. The Deepwoods Archives, Elian Hill, and Pedral Tower. Players will find brand new character options to ensure their experience of Ermerda Valo and the wider Dreams and Machines universe remains fresh and unique with each passing adventure. Dive into your next adventure as a message-carrying courier or as a teller, an undisputed master of history and recounter of mysterious tales. This 118-page hardcover will carry an MSRP of $34.99 when it lands in stores on December 6th, or you can grab just the PDF alone right now over at Drive-Thru RPG for $19.28. Kind of an odd price with that, but that is what the PDF is currently going for over at Drive-Thru RPG. Of course, if you order from Modiphius Entertainment, you will receive a free PDF. Important to keep that in mind. Agile Monk is swinging on into chat. Welcome aboard. So there's a little bit of discussion of Battletech. Now that's a classic. That is a classic. Kevin King says their Tome of Horrors from Frog God for Tales of the Valiant finally arrived. So that Kickstarter was a bit delayed in fulfillment. A bit. I know it was a bit. Plus, I remember a lot of folks. Okay, I'll take that back. I remember a vocal minority was very upset that Cobalt Press was teaming up with Frog God Games. It's like, okay. Gonna kick a dog for misbehaving. Maybe it learned its lesson. I don't know. I don't know. Don't know what to tell you. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's pretty cool. I have my review of the Game Master's Guide for Tales of the Valiant on the near horizon. You will see it this month. I will promise you that. In fact, you've been enjoying new reviews pretty much every day from the gaming gang. Now, tonight, it is a written review from Sammy. Tomorrow, you will get a video review from yours truly. Moving right along, arriving next week from Paizo Inc. is the latest chapter in the newest Pathfinder adventure path. I've got the skinny on Hoof, Cinder, and Storm, which is the second chapter of the three-part Triumph of the Tusk. Having bested an orc hold and proven they're no mere dignitaries, the PCs are invited to the mighty orc city of Urgir to quell the raging ancestor storms and protect the invaluable Aurochs herds that sustain Belkzin's people. Yet many would exploit the ongoing chaos. Orc rebels in the vertical mining city of Blisterwell, Chianti raiders answering old vendettas, and more. The player characters must repel these attacks, turning foes into friends in Belkzin's ongoing fight for survival. Hoof, Cinder, and Storm is an orc-focused Pathfinder adventure for 4 6th level characters. The adventure continues the Triumph of the Tusk adventure path, a 3-part monthly campaign in which an eclectic band of dignitaries become battle-hardened survivalists fighting for orcs' homeland and independence. This volume includes a collection of additional adventures in Belkzin, an overview of Chianti culture, new magical items, and fearsome creatures that stalk the Badlands. This 90-page softcover is going to arrive next week on November 20th. It carries an MSRP of $29.99. If you want to just score the PDF alone, you'll be able to do so for $19.99. Should also mention, you will get a sneak peek at this in a couple of days, maybe even tomorrow. I might get the video up tomorrow because my Paizo preview is coming. So we're going to be taking a look at this. We've got 3 decks of spell cards to take a quick peek into. We've got a couple of flip mat releases, as well as Divine Mysteries, a new Lost Omens release. Now, Sammy has reviewed the first chapter of this adventure path, and she gave it a 7.5 out of 10. So, thought it was a nice start to the adventure path. Not necessarily some of Paizo's top line work, I guess we'll say. But she did give it a recommendation. So there's that. There's that. All right. Rusty Raider is with us. Might be a first time visit in chat with us tonight. That nickname doesn't ring a bell with me. So welcome aboard regardless. Off the Shelf Board Game Reviews is also with us. Welcome aboard. Looks like we've got a nice chat rocking and rolling tonight. Let's move on to our next news piece because the entire Vikingverse line of role-playing game releases from Schwalb Entertainment is being offered in a bundle of holding, and I've got the deets on the deal. Adventurer. This all-new Vikingverse bundle presents When the Wolf Comes, Ian Stewart Sharp's tabletop science fantasy role-playing game of Vikingverse action from Schwalb Entertainment, based on Shadow of the Demon Lord. The Vikingverse is set during a reimagined Ragnarok, the doom of the gods. Fated to be devoured by the great wolf Finir, Odin defied the Norns by changing destiny, by granting forbidden knowledge to the Norse kingdoms. Now in this alternate present, expeditions of the Widefarers, Rune Masters, Songsmiths, Thread Riders, Number Witches, and other Norse heroes travel the yawning void via the greenways of Yggdrasil. I never get that word right. The World's Tree. The 9 homeworlds are your setting for sagas of phenomenal trial, or great personal sacrifice. Ragnarok is struck throughout the shattered timelines. The fates send your heroes, pawns in a cosmic game, to stand against doom across the kingdom of the heavens. In this elementally hazardous universe, perhaps all that matters is how you meet the end. This all new offer gives you the entire Vikingverse line for an unbeatable bargain price. For just $14.95, you'll get all 17 titles in this Vikingverse collection, which has a retail value of $61, as DRM free PDFs, including the complete standalone 392-page When the Wolf Comes core rulebook, 3 short but intense rules expansions, Space Vikings, Doomcraft, and Death Metal, the character expansions Paths of Honor and Paths of Shame, and the complete 11-part Thought and Memory Saga campaign bundle. These savings are going to run through November 20th. Well. I remember when this came out, I shared news about, in fact, I think it was the Kickstarter I shared news of it. And I know it was built on Shadow of the Demon Lord. In fact, Shadow of the, what is it? Weird Wizard. I almost said Wild Wizard. Yeah, Shadow of the Wild Wizard. Shadow of the Weird Wizard and Secrets of the Weird Wizard, I do believe, are arriving in print next week, too. Might have some news about that. So if you are not into a grim, dark sort of setting, something to keep your eyes on. Anyway, we are talking about this bundle right now, though. I was going to say, I don't seem to remember it being from Schwalb Entertainment. I seem to recall it was from another publisher. So I'm wondering if Schwalb Entertainment picked this up because it's built on Shadow of the Demon Lord. Could be. It could be. Chris Lundgren says they were reading the panic on an RPG group that they're in about the fact that 32 pages in the new Dungeons & Dragons 5.5 Dungeon Master's Guide is dedicated to Greyhawk. And Wizards of the Coast has just said that they plan to expand products for Greyhawk. Well, that's not a new thing. They've been talking about that for a while. In fact, they were talking about that before. They were talking about how Greyhawk was tackled in the Dungeon Master's Guide and that they did have future plans for Greyhawk releases. So there is that. Sadly, I am not going to be reviewing the Dungeon Master's Guide because they're not sending me a review copy, obviously enough. Whatever. I'll keep my eyes peeled to see when it's, comes down to like $29.99 on Amazon. And then I'll grab me a copy. Tessie Trekkie is swung on in. Says they want less grimdark games and more bright hope games. Yes, the world is shite, but if we work and struggle, we can make it better. There you have it. There you go. I will go back to the Dungeon Master's Guide for a second and say that I'm hearing good things about it. Now, does that necessarily mean that people are just regurgitating what the shills are saying? I don't know. Maybe. But I have heard that people are enjoying it more than they did the Player's Handbook. Graham Cracker says, such a shame they hate your honesty. I don't think it's hate. I just figure that, as I pointed out before, I'm not going to rehash it really too much. It almost feels to me like they think they're punishing me. It's like, geez, yeah, I know, because there isn't anything else out there for me to talk about. except for Dungeons and Dragons. It's like, no. Sarah D is with us, says she finally got a chance to get to the PC. They've been listening on their phone. There you go. There you go. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Moving right along. Landing in stores tomorrow for Free League Publishing is the first adventure campaign for Dragonbane. Oh, this edition of Dragonbane, at least. It is Path of Glory. Here's the scoop. Hooves. Come on, there haven't been hooves around for years. Pedrina exclaims contemptuously. You're just imagining things. I'm sure of it. They are hooves. With a resigned sigh, Rimtu lifts his head from the ground and sits down next to Pedrina by the small campfire. Suddenly, the peace is broken by two huge shapes rushing toward the adventurers with axes drawn. We will have glory! The Minotaurs roar, delivering a violent blow with their double axes to each of the adventurers. Coming to the legendary Dead Forest in search of treasure, glory, and a solution to the ancient curse laying waste to the forest, the adventurers soon find themselves embroiled in an epic conflict reaching back to the very foundations of the world. The quest will take the adventurers through the depths of the forest, under the mountain, and into a strange new land where the fate of the world will be determined. Path of Glory was the first major adventure campaign released for the original Swedish edition of the Dragonbane role-playing game, in 3 installments during 1985 and 1986. Dead Forest, Gates of Power, and Heart of Darkness. This new edition, reimagined and updated by Free League and the original author, Roger Underhaven. I'm sure I came nowhere close to it. I think it's Undhagen. Collects the trilogy in a single volume. This full-color edition has been given completely new illustrations by David Brasgala and new cover art by Johan Egerkrans. The rules are fully updated to the latest edition of Dragonbane, and it also includes maps painted by Francesca Birol. The 148-page hardcover arrives in stores tomorrow. Does carry an MSRP of $39.99. Of course, if you make your purchase through Free League, you will get the PDF for free. Or if you just want to grab the PDF alone, you can do so over at Drive-Thru RPG for $19.99. I shall also mention I will have my review of Path of Glory this weekend. So stay tuned. I will actually even have my review of Electric State, or The Electric State to be precise, this weekend as well. Part of the November brings you a new review every day sort of thing that I'm doing. Well, it's kind of because Black Friday is on the horizon. So just trying to get reviews out there so people can make informed buying decisions. So there's that. And who was it that just said, oh, Coco Beast says they're going to start it in a Dragonbane game themselves in less than 2 weeks. I can't wait. Pete Strakolich says the art of Dragonbane is superb. I like the artwork quite a bit. It's not hyper realistic, but then again, it doesn't look too cartoonish. So there's that. So there is that. 245 trioxin is popping on in. So Chris Lundgren says the people in the RPG group were all upset that Forgotten Realms is supposed to be the original setting. Poor youngsters, if they only knew. How about that? Yes. Oh, it's only Faerun. That's it. It's like, really? Seriously? Faerun's pretty new to the proceedings if you want to, look all the way back. All right, let's talk about my final news piece, because now available in print and PDF is the horror adventure, The Parthenogenesis of Hungry Hollow, which is from Goblin Archives and Space Penguin Inc. And I've got the lowdown on the tale. The parthenogenesis of Hungry Hollow is the first hardback adventure module for liminal horror. Something strange is happening in Hungry Hollow, seemingly centered around the upcoming birth of its newest resident. Dive into the town, make acquaintance with its inhabitants, and unravel the horrid truth that lies buzzing just beneath the surface. The players take on the role of investigators, attempting to figure out what has been going on in Hungry Hollow. People have gone missing, some return changed, and rumors of dangerous resonant artifacts in the area. Bree, a former investigator, had recently moved back to her home of Hungry Hollow, but all communication from her has ceased. The module starts with a large part of the town's population having, well, here comes some spoilers, secretly been implanted with parasitic flesh bees. Ooh, picture that in your head. In fact, you just saw an image of one. Those not given the gift of the bee, I don't know if it's really much of a gift, are concerned with the changes happening throughout town. People have gone missing unexpectedly. Some have come back different, and all the animals in the area are long gone. All the while, Bree and her followers are preparing for a community-wide baby shower to usher in the birth of Trigona, the god queen of the flesh hive. Oh, we're getting a lot of spoilers here. The Liminal Horror Twisted Classics line are ground up reimagining of classic adventures instead of direct conversions. They take inspiration from the core elements of an older adventure and add a variety of twists to give them a unique flavor and bring them into the era of modern horror. The parthenogenesis of Hungry Hollow presents a new take on, get ready for it, against the cult of the reptile god. How about that? And big thanks to Douglas, Niles, and team for the inspiration. The Parthenogenesis of Hungry Hollow is a hardcover book. It's got a colored cover and black and white interiors. The 120-page hardcover with PDF can be had over at Space Penguin Inc. for an MSRP of $40. Or if you want to just grab the PDF alone, you can do so over at Drive-Thru RPG for $20. Very, very interesting. I was like, that sounds pretty wild. Mike says I need some honey on toast now. Yum, 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 yum. Artwork looks pretty cool. I am kind of curious if this leans heavier into like the art punk style. It doesn't look like it, but I don't know. I do not know. I have heard good things about the liminal horror role-playing game. I know I've shared news about it. I have not had an opportunity to take a peek at it. But kind of cool. Kind of cool. All righty then. So that is it for the news for the evening. Of course, I was just talking about Drive-Thru RPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to swing on by to Drive-Thru RPG, Dungeon Masters Guild, Storytellers Vault, Wargame Vault even, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. The newly redesigned thegaminggang.com first, and click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I'll get 5% of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do go a long way to keeping thegaminggang.com around. Of course, if you like this video, if you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always stop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Lovely. And there are some of you out there who stop by paypal.me and make not small donations, such as my high school pal, Scott Weigel, John Webster, Craig Watkins, and our very own, the Madman. Big tip of the cap. So thank you to all of you out there for using the banner ads and or stopping by paypal.me. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. So we've got some new folks popping on into chat. We've got Dean Windemuller says, over their dead body will physical gaming end. As long as they draw breath, there'll be one person in the world who doesn't use a screen for all their gaming. Unless you mean a GM screen. I think we had a few other people popping on in. Wizards of the Tower is with us. I think this might also be a first-time visit in chat for Wizards of the Tower, so welcome aboard. And let's see. Michael Chad is with us. Welcome, everybody. All right, so that was the news for tonight. We're going to be getting into our topic of pondering whether tabletop gaming's future is doomed. Doomed, I say. We're going to talk about that in just a few moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission. I think I changed it. Pretty sure.
What made Milwaukee change its mind? What made Milwaukee change its mind?
Hello, I'm Rex Marshall. Yes, the big beer question these days is, what made Milwaukee change its mind about beer? Well, if you like Milwaukee beer, I guess everybody knows that that's America's best beer. I'm sure you'll be mighty interested in the answer. What made Milwaukee change its mind? Well, let's ask a man from Milwaukee. He ought to know.
Yes, I certainly do know, and I'll tell you all about it. You know, Milwaukee is where almost all the fine, world-famous beers are brewed. Over the years, more and more people, right here in Milwaukee, have come to realize that Blatz is the finest of all the fine beers. That's why today, in these modern times, Blatz is Milwaukee's favorite beer by far. Yes, no doubt about it. The flavor of Blatz is what made Milwaukee change its mind about beer. The Milwaukee Journal proves it in black and white. You see, every year this newspaper conducts a citywide survey on beer preferences and publishes the results. Now see for yourself how Blatz has been preferred by Milwaukee year after year after year. And take a look at this. Nowadays, Milwaukee prefers Blatz by an even greater margin.
Well, you know, winning an honor like that, year after year after year, in America's beer capital, is surely the greatest possible tribute to the flavor of any beer. Don't you agree? So the next time you order beer, remember, it's so easy to enjoy Milwaukee's favorite beer. Just be sure that you order Blatz, Milwaukee's favorite beer, Milwaukee's finest beer.
How's that cigar I gave you?
I like it better than that Wilkins coffee.
Stronger, too, isn't it?
Novatel's famous talking doll. We pull the rings and you say 11 different things. Let's play house. Please change my dress. You can change your dresses now, goodness knows. Now you've got a wardrobe full of pretty clothes. For nursery school, you're crisp and cool. For summer, there's a playtime set. In winter, brr, your collar's fur. In a coat as cute as you can get. I love you. You love your mamas, and they love you sleepy time pajamas.
Just pull the ring. You never know what she'll say next.
Tell me a story. The only story now left to tell is a Chatty Cathy's made by Mattel.
You'll find Chatty Cathy and her costume sets wherever toys are sold.
You can tell it's Mattel, it's swell.
I'm Chatty Cathy, and I'm going to kill you. Glue RX says Blatz, not a lasting brand name. It's actually still around. Blatz beer is still around. In fact, I think, if I remember correctly, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's good beer. I think it's brewed by Pabst, which I could never get over. Elliot and I could not stop laughing when Blue Ribbon became sort of like a chic beer. It was like, what? Pabst Blue Ribbon. And we were at Origins one year. It's quite a while ago. And we were looking around to find a place to eat. And the place became kind of our go-to until it went out of business. And they had $2 Pabst. And it was like, okay. And people were like, wow, I can't believe we're only paying $2 for PBR. And you're like, what? What do you mean? Like, oh, it's like, usually most places it's like $5 a pint. I'm like, for Pabst Blue Ribbon? They were like, yeah. I was like, man, I'm drinking in the wrong places. A few more people popping on into chat. We also have Alan Rowe and Game Cat with us. Wizard of the Tower said, yes, it's actually their first time popping on into chat. They caught the tariff show. Hey, and they actually tuned in for another episode. So thanks for popping on in. Matteo's with us. Let's see. I think I have said hello to everyone. If I have not said hello to you and you're hanging out in chat, I do apologize. So there's a little bit of discussion about Chatty Cathy and PBR. Glue RX's Pabst Blue Ribbon on tap tastes like Bud in a can. Bud Light always gives me a headache. Bud Light in a bottle always gives me a headache. If I have like 2 or more. And I think the only thing that we could come up with was whatever like disinfectant they use on the bottles. Just doesn't get along with me well. I'm not a Bud fan anyway. Miller Lite, obviously enough, because my best friend's name is Elliot Miller. And of course, for decades, we've always said it's his family label. So Octavius is with us, popping on in, says, yeah, you know what? Bud Light does that to them too. Yes. All right. So before we get into tonight's topic, do want to mention a week from tonight, I am going to start. It'll be our Thursday night topic, whatever you want to consider it. We are going to build an old school fantasy role-playing game, a rules light, old school fantasy role-playing game. I started a series, gosh, it's what is it? Like 2 years ago now, maybe more than that. And it didn't, I mean, it was, didn't pull in a lot of views, but I thought what can we do that involves the people in chat a little bit more outside of just, discussion, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to float things out there, and we are going to go from just different aspects of the game. So it'll be an old school influenced. So it's not necessarily going to be old school revival. Fantasy role-playing game. We're going to talk about what kind of attributes we're looking at. What are we going to do for our action resolution, magic, combat, all those things. So that's what we'll be doing. Off the Shelf Board Game Review says it's the Budweiser. The headache is your body telling you to stop drinking gutter water. It was because I worked with some friends that were just Bud Light drinkers. So you'd go over to their place and go to their house, and they'd just have cases of Bud Light. It was like, oh, okay. We'd polish off a case in an evening. Chris Lundgren says they want to create a generic Logan's Run role-playing game using simple D6. Are you going to include all the nudity in it or no? That was one of the first things I was really surprised by when I saw the uncut Logan's Run, not the one that was on ABC back in like 1980 or whatever. I was like, wow, there's a good amount of nudity in this. Yeah, I wasn't complaining, don't get me wrong. Okay, so that is what's going to be starting a week from today. So let's talk about tonight's topic. And once again, as I had mentioned to start the show, if you follow the Gaming Gang, if you watch my videos, if you hang out live, I'm not Mr. Doom and Gloom. And I'm not like one of these people who's like, oh yeah, can't wait to do another live show where it's something negative. Yeah, that's going to bring him in. And I'm not a clickbait farmer either. But we were talking a bit when we discussed tariffs, and I had mentioned that there has been a downturn in the hobby already. And there's been a little bit of pushback on me saying that. But here's the thing. And got to remember, we're not only talking about role-playing games, because there are hundreds of board game reviews that we've done at the Gaming Gang over the years. I still review board games. I just don't happen to review as many, simply not because I don't love board games and I don't want to play them. It's because we just can't get enough time with the gang to play games enough times for me to do a review. And I refuse to do reviews based on simply playing a game once. I don't think that's fair to the consumer. I don't think it's fair to the designer or the publisher. Especially if I screw something up and I played it wrong and I'm like, this is crap. And it turns out, no, dummy, you missed the rule. So that happens. So I had talked a little bit about the Gen Con prior to COVID breaking out. And I mean, the reality is at that point in time, there was COVID. It just hadn't really started hitting outside of China. So anyway, as I mentioned, I had talked to some publisher friends of mine, and there was real concern. There was real concern about if these publishers were going to be around the following year to be at Gen Con. And there were some who were like, hey, you know what, if our newest release, and this was like all off the record, right? So I can't say, oh, well, I talked to XYZ company. But there was a real concern that if their newest releases, like their Gen Con releases, didn't go over well, that they may not be in business for Gen Con, what would it have been, Gen Con 2020? we're starting to get into that a little bit with some publishers out there again. Now, the COVID pandemic was terrible for everybody, but it was not terrible for game publishers. It was very, very good for game publishers. I spoke to many, many game publishers at various conventions, and I had asked, how is the pandemic for business? And there wasn't a single one who told me, well, we didn't do all that well. It was all, oh my gosh, incredible. Kind of weird, right? Sit there and be like, okay, sadly, millions of people died, but business was great. But I mean, that's how it happened. It just happened to be, we had the lockdowns. You still had UPS and Amazon delivering stuff. So yeah, sure. So as Wizards of the Tower says, yeah, because people stayed at home, gamed over the network, or they gamed with their family. Well, that's gone. So over the last 18 months, there has been a downturn in game sales. In fact, we had seen positive growth for a few years in a row. And I mean, depending on what source you rely upon, some claim that from like 2018 to 2020, we saw huge double-digit growth in the industry, profit-wise. Not sales-wise, profit-wise. Others, they're not as bullish on those numbers, but it was good. It was very good. Now we are seeing lower sales numbers. And in 2023, now I have seen conflicting information. I have seen one source say that sales, not profits, sales of tabletop games increased by 1% over 2022. There's only one source that I've encountered that says that it improved. Everything else I've seen, it's single-digit loss as far as sales over the previous year. So we have seen a downturn in sales, and there's a few different reasons for it. Bang! Mateo is popping right in with the first item I was going to talk about. Board gaming. There's just a glut of content out there. It is, or as Mateo points out, oversaturated. So it's difficult to learn about new games that are going to be something that's going to fit like your gang. It's much harder to kind of sift through the crap that is out there. And let's be very honest, lots of crap. There is lots and lots of crap out there, both role-playing games as well as board games. And part of the problem is that you no longer really have unbiased coverage of games. Okay, so I'll take that back. I don't want to say you don't have it, because I do my best to provide unbiased coverage of games. But you know for a fact that there are so many content creators out there that are simply shills. And every game they run across, they're telling you, oh, this is the best engine building, plateau building game I've ever played until I play the next engine building, plateau building game. So it's become very difficult for the consumer out there to kind of cut through all the noise and really find out I mean, it used to be a lot of people relied on Board Game Geek. That's not necessarily the case anymore. I know there were a lot of people out there that I've talked to who used to rely upon specific outlets to let them know, hey, is a game good or not? And they've stopped doing that because they've gotten burned too many times buying something that an outlet said, hey, yeah, we give this the thumbs up, or we give this our seal of approval, and it turns out it wasn't very good at all. So we've got the oversaturation of the hobby. We have the huge jump in pricing for board games and role-playing game releases, which has turned a lot of people off. So, and one of the reasons why I don't share a lot of board game news anymore is because I'll see stuff that's like a Kickstarter project, and it's a game that 4 years ago, would have probably been going for a pledge level of $40. And all of a sudden it's got miniatures and for no reason whatsoever. It's like, oh, hey, your player pawn is now a miniature. It's a 32 millimeter miniature that you'll move on the board to track your victory points. It's like, really? And it's $80. It's like, what? Seeing lots of that. Seeing loads and loads of that. People backing on Kickstarter is down as well. So Kickstarter, more and more people are moving away from crowdfunding games. And crowdfunding had become the avenue for a vast majority of publishers, big and small, as far as trying to shift the risk to the consumer as opposed to the publisher. We're seeing quite a bit less of that. And yeah, you know what? We see stuff where it's like, oh, hey, this role-playing game Kickstarter has pulled in $5 million. Sure, we still have these behemoth projects, but you're not seeing as many, $50,000 projects and things like that succeed as we had in the past. Matteo says, seems like Dice Tower gives everything a seal of approval, even when they don't like it, as if publishers have paid to get the seal on their game. I can't say anything. I don't know. When I say seal of approval, I wasn't actually referring to the Dice Tower seal of approval, but you also see other outlets trying to do that kind of stuff too, where it's like, oh, it's our seal of approval. That, it's a sticker that goes on a box and stuff. It's like, what was the one? I don't even know if they're still around. Dr. Fun? Was it Dr. Fun? I think it was Dr. Fun. And Dr. Fun was, you wrote them a check, the check cleared, and you got Dr. Fun's approval on it. No joke. No joke. And everybody knew it. Everybody knew that as well. Off-the-shelf board game reviews says quite a few channels are purely paid advertisers masquerading as reviewers. That's what I heard about off-the-shelf board game reviews. I heard that I'm teasing. Many are charging a large sum of money just to review a game. Oh, well, yeah. It's not even a review. I'm not sure what off-the-shelf means by AD. I mean, we see unboxing videos all the time passed off as reviews, and which drives me nuts. We've talked about that in the past as well. It's like, no, that's an overview. It's not a review. How can you take something out of the box and, oh, okay, oh, that's pretty good. We've seen that too with like box sets for role-playing games. There was an outlet, I don't know, I don't recall who they were. It was a couple of guys. They did an unboxing and review of the Pathfinder for Savage Worlds Ultimate Core Box, which I have reviewed. And it was, the title of their video was Unboxing and Review. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, curious about that. It's like, really? So I go and I take a look, and I'll be damned. And it was like 30 minutes. They just unboxed it, and then they were like, yeah, this is really worth the money. This is really worth the $199. And it's like, based upon what? Now, granted, I did like the Ultimate Core box. But yeah, we see way, way too much of that as far, and it's, it's not good for the hobby. It really isn't. And it's got to the point where, it used to be you knew who you could trust. Now you don't. Now it's sort of like, geez, man, really? I mean, there were some outlets out there that you just absolutely just knew that, they were getting paid. Even if they claimed they don't get paid, they were getting paid because publishers would tell me what they had to pay. Off the record, of course, but there were some out there where it was like, I mean, they didn't even hide the fact. Well, take that back. They did try to hide the fact that they were paid shills, that they were not really reviewers, that they had been compensated. So that's why they would hide the sponsored flag that pops up. Like when I do a Kickstarter video, I never call it a review. Even if I tell you what I think about it, I never tell you it's a review. It's a preview. And I always make sure right off the bat, it pops up. I tell you, and it also pops up that I've been compensated, if I have been, to shoot that video. They were hiding it, that pop up after their end credits to the videos. It's like, what the fuck? Oh, it was an ad. It was an advertisement. So, typing on a phone sucks. This is off the shelf board game reviews. I get that. Yes. It is not a skill that I have. I'm not a fast texter or anything like that. Anywho, so we have seen more and more people who really enjoy the hobby start to condense their collections. We hear about this from our friends all the time. My friends, your friends, people tend to be consolidating their game collections, selling off stuff that just doesn't get to the table, and cutting back on their purchases. I would take a guess, if any of you watching live or on Memorex after the fact, if you'd like to comment in the comment section, that'd be great. I would take a guess, very few of you are going to tell me, oh no, I'm buying more games now than ever before. And I highly doubt you know anyone who's buying more games than ever before. Got to figure that is probably very, very unlikely. So we've got that. So we've got just overall sales are down. Backing on Kickstarter is down. There is pushback from the consumers out there against all these outlets who will tell you that a steaming pile of shit is wonderful and just spoon that up. Yum, yum, yum. I'm not lying. You see it all the time. I find it very frustrating. Also, one of the reasons why I moved further away from board game stuff is I don't want to be, you've heard me say this if you watch the show, I don't want to be tarred with that brush, because it's gotten to the point, very few board game reviewers out there can be trusted. I'm not saying no one can. I'm just saying it's because it's money. It's all money. And when you see all of a sudden outlets come out of nowhere and they've been around for a week and they've got 50,000 subscribers, and you're like, huh? And you go and look at their website, and their website's got like nothing and really bare bones. Right there, you know those people have paid an outside source to get them those subs. That's why a lot of times I don't want to like harp on other outlets out there, but a lot of times you'll see that, you know, most publishers, they're like, I don't know. A lot of publishers never heard of me. They've never heard of the Gaming Gang. And we've been at this we're in our 15th year. So, yes, granted, I'm awful at self-promotion, but still. And they'll see, oh, hey, you know, a little more than 14,000 YouTube subscribers. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you should probably have more views with that many subscribers. Yeah, I know. But they'll see somebody and they've got 50,000 subs and they've made 8 videos for a grand total of maybe an hour and a half combined. And they're like, wow, look at all these views these people have, which you can also pay for. And then all of a sudden it's like, wow, they're doing an unboxing of a $150 board game that they got from XYZ company, who I couldn't twist their arm to send me anything. How does that happen? So anyway, so we've got pushback from consumers who are tired of being lied to. They're also tired of getting ripped off for games that they've backed on Kickstarter. And so Raven says they still trust Tom Vasel. Oh, I'm not talking about Tom in the Dice Tower. Remember, I didn't say everybody's crooked, but there are way, way too many outlets out there who are just shills. That it's like somebody says they get contacted by a publisher and the publisher's like, hey, we'd like you to review XYZ game. And then that outlet writes them back and says, okay, well, that's $200 or $250 or $500. So, and I get it. You got to pay your bills. I completely understand that. So, but no, I have absolutely no issue with Tom Vasel and the Dice Tower. Never have. People are like throwing out different persons' names, and I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, yeah, them. Yeah, fuck them. No, absolutely not. Game Cat says Jeff speaks the full true. Wizard of the Tower says they know one personally. I don't know if they know of like a shill or if they know that person personally. But that's just another aspect of why we're seeing the kind of the downturn in gaming. So I'm not going to get political here. When I did the tariffs video, I tried not to get political. Some creeped in, but still. Also have to keep in mind, we've already got the downturn in sales across the board. Board games, role-playing games, both. And that's with a relatively decent amount of what we used to joke around and call BAM, which is from a Cheech and Chong album. It's BAM, bumming around money. Just when you're out, hanging out with your friends, go to the bar, you're spending bam, bumming around money. Go to the movies, that's bam, bumming around money. I believe we are going to see in the next couple of years, the vast majority of people are not going to have the same amount of bam in their pockets as they had previously. And if you're a gamer, you've obviously already got a game collection of stuff that you like. So you're going to be in good shape as far as a gamer, that you're going to sit there and be like, well, okay, I don't need to go buy something new. We've also started to see a bit of a slowdown or diminishing number of people who would fall into that. They were the cult of the new, where they always had to go get some new game. Whatever new was on the horizon, they were like, oh, I'm so excited. I also see less excitement from people about new releases. Where 5 years ago, 10 years ago, something would get announced and people would be like, oh man, oh, they'd be all excited. And then suddenly you'd be sitting there and you'd be like, nowadays it's sort of like, yeah. I mean, I get, news sent to me all the time. And I'll go take a look and I'll be like, I'm not really gonna share news about that. I mean, you already know the news I share on the Gaming Gang is stuff that catches my eye. Stuff that I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. Now, it might not look interesting to all of you out there. But I also try to share stuff that I think would be on your radars as well. So, Ellen says that a sales manager for a distributor, and they're seeing growth in role-playing game sales to retailers. Granted, some that is coming from a certain other very well-known distributor changing their focus. Yes, I know what Alan's saying. I understand the inside baseball. And he's revealed who he works for. And that's cool. That's very cool that you're seeing growth in RPG sales to retailers, although some of it is because of the other distributor moving away from that. So I get it. Here's something else that we want to keep in mind. Once again, like I said, I'm trying not to get political here, but the American economy drives the world's economy. And regardless, I know I've got a lot of folks who are from outside the United States who tune in to watch. Thank you very much. And I'm not trying to knock where you live, but it's pretty well established. The American economy and the Chinese economy drive the world's economy. So if we see a slowdown like in China's economy, which we have seen in the past, it affects everybody else. Same thing in the U.S. Right now, I mean, everybody's all talking about how, the U.S. economy is the envy of the world. It very well could be. The voters didn't see it that way, but, it very well could be. And I don't see good things for the American economy on the horizon. Not in the next 6 months, not probably in the next year. But as I've talked about with people I know, and I'm sure many of you realize this, especially if you live in the U.S., it's not the president in power that determines the economy for about 2 years. So give you a great example. Reaganomics, trickle-down economics. I don't know why the Republicans just love, well, I know why they love it, but they always claim it works and it doesn't. But if George H.W. Bush were still alive, you could ask him what he thought of Reaganomics, because Reaganomics cost him a second term. Because it's not the current president which is driving the economy. It's usually whoever was president 2 years prior is kind of how it works. So I sort of get the idea that the U.S. economy is not going to be, for the average person, I think we're going to see some turmoil. Raven says, I hope the economic turmoil only lasts about 2 years. Well, we have had people, Wizards of the Tower says after the election, biggest search on Google was, what is a tariff and how does it work? It should have been before the election that people were asking that. But I'm concerned because the people who are surrounding the incoming president have already said prior to the election that there are going to be changes made and people are going to suffer in the short term for long-term prosperity. In fact, I think the exact quote was from Elon Musk. Everyone's getting a haircut. I think that was what it was. I know he said haircut, but if I remember correctly, I think the exact quote is, everyone is getting a haircut. So that won't be good for the hobby because once again, it's the disposable income, or as I like to refer to it as BAM, is not going to be as prevalent as it is currently. So I don't know. Tessie Trekkie says, America sneezes, the world catches the flu. Off the Shelf Board Game Reviews wonders how the rise of PDFs is affecting the sales of physical products. See, that's something on Tuesday. The topic I'm going to be sharing is how to get the most bang out of your gaming budget. That is going to be our topic. As I had mentioned earlier, tonight's topic will kind of segue into Tuesday's topic. So, and of course, that will be a much more pleasant discussion. Not that this is a terrible discussion or anything. It's just, it's a bummer is how I look at it. But funny enough, I think even without what may or may not happen in the future with the incoming administration here in the United States, I think the hobby was going to take a bit of a tumble anyway. And much of it is based on what Matteo was saying, the oversaturation, right? Just like even looking at role-playing games, which is kind of our big focus now and has been for a few years here at the Gaming Gang. Even that, there's a lot of stuff that's out there that's coming out. Gabe Cat says Elon's going to grow a mullet. Dusty Draghi says the company they work for is U.S.-based but has manufacturing sites all over the world. We're more than a little concerned that a blanket tariff will hurt both our local affiliate and our U.S. parent. Sean O'Donnell says they've got Emerald on the brain. Bam! I love to cook. That's something you guys don't know. You folks don't know. I love to cook. In fact, I cook all the time for myself and my dad. And I remember when the Food Channel first came out, I would have that on all the time. I'd be playing a computer game and I'd have that on in the background. I'd be like, "Ooh, hey, that looks interesting." And I'd be like, "Okay, hang on. Let me make sure to jot down that recipe there." Chris Lundgren asks, I wonder how the heck Starfleet Battles keeps going. They sell product to this day, never hear them anywhere. Still a fun game. They print in the U.S. What is it? Amarillo Game Design, I think is, if I remember correctly, that's where Starfleet Battles is with. It's been with them for quite a few years. They hang around because they've got a rabid fan base is the only thing I can think of. I mean, the reality is, just my opinion, and I played Starfleet Battles when it first came out from Task Force Games. The whole crew back in high school, we all played it. And it was a really good game. Last I saw it, it is just an unplayable mess. I mean, it's just got so much that it's like, oh, no way. Absolutely not. It'd be like, wow, I think I'm going to take a break from Starfleet Battles and play something a little more lightweight, like Advanced Squad Leader. Mateo asks, what game segment do you think may have room to grow? Wargaming? No. No. I'll tell you what, I love my GMT games. Flying Pig Games, Tiny Battle Publishing, Worthington. I like Worthington, but Worthington's way too pricey. Same with my buddy Mark H. Walker. His games tend to be pretty pricey. And it's because they don't sell a lot. So GMT does a pretty good job of holding the line as far as pricing, but a lot of their games are also $100, $90. Every once in a while, they'll release something and I'll be like, wow, it's $40. I mean, granted, it's, paper maps. And I do notice that the counter sheets tend to be pretty thin on those, but still. But wargaming, historical gaming and wargaming, I don't think it'll ever go away because you will still have people who are interested in history. And we do tend to see as people get older, they're a little more interested in what happened before. Whereas, especially younger people nowadays, I mean, and I hear it all the time. Well, if I wasn't around for it, I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. And it's like, okay. It's like, I say this all the time. It's like, but you do realize that the way things are because of the way things were, what's happened, But I don't see war games like hex and counter games becoming more popular. They just kind of hang on. And it's been like that for a long time. It's been like that for decades now, really. And they've always talked about the graying of the hobby. But luckily, there's always been enough new blood coming in to keep wargaming around. But Tessie Trekkie says, GMT is expensive, but you could kill someone with a lot of their games. Yeah, they do tend to pack a lot of content. And you will find that with a lot of war games out there that you do get a lot of replayability, obviously enough. I mean, like, as an example, I can't tell you how many times I've played Twilight Struggle. Granted, is it a war game? No. Does it look like a war game? Yeah. Is it a historical game? Yes. But that game could have been $250, and I still have gotten that much value and more out of playing Twilight Struggle. I think part of the problem that we have, too, that we're seeing the slowdown in gaming sales is, as we talked about, the oversaturation. I think a lot of people have just gotten burned too many times, too. And stuff that comes out just doesn't feel new and fresh. A lot of the Kickstarters I'll see, I'll be like, okay, yeah, that kind of reminds me of XYZ, as opposed to, oh, wow, that looks really different. Now, that's in the board gaming arena. Role-playing games, we still see stuff that's, pretty unique. I try to share news of those things. But Dice Tales is with us, says the U.S. Civil War, great game. You better have some upper body strength when you go to take it off the shelf. Quite a few American Civil War games. I'm really looking forward to the House Divided, the new edition of A House Divided, because that was a game that we played the hell out of. My friend Ed and I played a lot of. Wizards of the Tower says Warhammer keeps pulling models and releasing new models and obsoleting older stuff. If you play tourneys, you have to keep buying new stuff. Well, that's been a thing with them forever. I mean, it's not like that's something new. But I mean, that is part of how their business plan is built. And it has bit them in the ass a few times. But the cost to compete with Games Workshop for many companies that come along turns out to be way, way more than they would like. Tessie Trekkie says, new bucket list item. Get to a con where Jeff's attending and challenge him to a game of Twilight Struggle with an expensive bottle of Tasmanian whiskey on the line. I'm not bringing Tasmanian whiskey. I have to say, one of the funniest things, I played against someone who was in naval intelligence who just thought that they were going to smoke me like a cheap cigar. And I'm always stuck playing the Soviets. I think I could probably count on one hand how many times I've gotten to play as the U.S. And early in turn 2, I won. I had my 20 victory points. And they couldn't believe it. I got some good cards. I got to say, there was a lot of good synergy that was working that day. Anywho, so there are just a few reasons that I think that now, is the hobby doomed? No. Obviously, it's not doomed. But I do think things are going to get sticky for some pretty popular publishers out there. And I think we will see some companies kind of fold or go under that we're not expecting. Just like the vast majority of gamers out there, remember Mayfair Games? If you went to conventions, if you went to Origins or you went to Gen Con, I mean, they were the big sponsor for the conventions. At Gen Con, they had a van that they would set up, and every year they gave out a pin, a Mayfair pin for that year's Gen Con. So they were different. And they would have, in the mornings, they would have free coffee. And in the afternoon and evening, they would have water. But they were a huge sponsor. And remember, Mayfair Games had a lot of games, Catan being one of them. And boop, right before Gen Con one year, it was like, yeah, closing shop, folks. I think part of that had to do with the owner and his age. I think he probably had enough of the hobby at that point of time. But they also were not doing very well as far as the business side of things. So I kind of get a feeling that we may see. And we do also have some publishers out there that are stretched kind of thin, but they've got their irons in a lot of fires out there. And if their upcoming releases don't hit, there are going to be some problems too. So Ron Turner is with us in chat. Welcome aboard. So as far as, is the hobby doomed? No. Is the hobby going to be going to a dark place sometime in the next couple of years, and it might take a little bit of time to get out of it? I honestly really do think so. Tessie Trekkie says, I've seen a turn to European domination win as the Soviets took France. Yeah, that was one thing that I got. I did get France in that right off the bat. Chris Lundgren says they thought of running POTA at the senior center in Huntington Beach beef. Yes, delicious Huntington beef. Huntington Beach, California, with classic movie posters to pique their interest and pre-made sheets. I don't know if that would be something I would look to do. I don't know. All depends. All depends. It really depends more on the senior center itself. GameCat says all us old gamers need to be archived or cryoed for a future. Let's ask Elon. Well, yeah, we can ask him after we get our haircuts. I mean, if you're here in the U.S., you'll be getting a haircut. But anyway, Kevin King says, so basically prepare for a contraction in price increases. Yeah, that's about right. That is one of the things that, and once again, that's something that's going to push the downturn further, is the pricing increases that we're going to see, because we already have gamers out there who are not thrilled with the price points, and I'm with them, right? I completely understand that. I have had people email me saying, well, you shouldn't really be saying anything about price because you're a reviewer. You didn't have to pay it for it. You got it for free. And I guess on one hand, I understand that. But then on the other hand, it's sort of like, yeah, but I'm also here to share my honest opinion on something. Just like I was telling Elliot today, I was talking to him and I had mentioned, we're starting to see game books that 3-4 years ago would have been $39.99, maybe $49.99. They're coming out and they're $79.99. And it's like, wait, what? And I get it. We've heard from people who are in the publishing industry in chat in the past talking about, the cost of just paper has really shot up and made everything more expensive. But it's going to come to the point where gamers are just going to say, no, I'm not paying for that. Dungeons & Dragons 5.5, I got 5e on my shelf. Game's not going to be that different. Or they're going to be like, oh, look, there's another Battle of the Bulge game. Yeah, okay, and it's $150. No, I think I'm okay with the 3 different Battle of the Bulge games I already own. So yeah, hard times might be ahead for some game publishers out there. May not be easy. And I know Stephen from Roll for Combat has talked about how few copies are actually being sold of the new 5.5 D&D books. I don't know. I have no idea. But I thought that's kind of interesting because, of course, that's not how Wizards of the Coast is presenting it. But I know Stephen has pushed back on some of those numbers that Wizards of Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Cloak. It's been a long week. All right. Anyways, so once again, Tuesday, we are going to talk about how to stretch your gaming dollar. And if you tune in and you're hanging out in chat, I certainly want to hear some ideas from yourselves. Of course, talking about PDFs. That goes without saying as far as role-playing games. I know there was the question before about what do I think the impact of PDFs on role-playing games overall. I don't think it's that big a ding as far as, because I know there are people out there who are like, nope, I want the book. I want the physical book in my hands. Now, they might use the PDF at the table, or they might, use a PDF to read on a tablet or something like that. But I think PDFs have really benefited the really small publisher, the individual publisher out there. Now, sadly, there is just a metric ton of dog shit on Drive-Thru RPG. We know that. It's another place where you can't believe a review to save your life. There's a lot of great stuff too. Don't get me wrong, but there is a lot of garbage on there. I think it's done great for, the small publisher in that, as far as, like the Chaosiums, the Free Leagues, the Paizo Incs. Well, Paizo Inc. they don't put new stuff on Drive-Thru RPG. They sell PDFs through their own site. I don't think it's been that big a deal, especially when you've got companies like Modiphius, Free League, Chaosium, Cubicle 7. If you buy a physical book from them, they give you the PDF. I don't think it's that huge of a deal, to be honest. Just my opinion. I know if we had TS from Cubicle 7 hanging out in chat, we could ask him. Maybe if we see him pop in again, because that was the first time that he popped in the other night. But Wizards of the Tower says they prefer books, but I use PDFs because I can zoom in and read them easier. I find them pretty easy to navigate at the game table, too. Madman says they've definitely scaled back significantly on purchases and itemizing for a major purge. So yeah, that's one of the things we'll talk about as far as getting your hobby dollars stretched as far as it can. Different places you can look to buy used games. So, and some of them might not be super obvious. Well, we'll talk about all that stuff. Alan Rose says they use PDFs for game prep and books at the table. Yeah, for prep, I use PDFs almost exclusively because I tend to read them on my laptop. Or if I'm out someplace and I know I'm going to be gone for a while and I don't have a book handy, I'll bring my tablet and read a role-playing game PDF. Chris Langren says, I guess I'm a weirdo. Their eyes hate PDFs on their tablets. A lot of people don't like PDFs at all. Kim King also points out PDFs are good for importing into virtual tabletops too. Especially if you get some decent high-resolution images to use as your maps and stuff. Oh, yeah. All right. Raven says they've got to log out for the night. Well, I'm leaving too. So once again, on Tuesday, we will talk about ways for you to stretch your gaming dollar. Week from tonight, we will kick off kind of a new Thursday night thing. I don't want to call it like a series because it's still the Dispatch, where we're going to build our very own old school styled fantasy role-playing game, and we will tackle pieces of that live on the show and have you guys in chat chime in, vote on stuff. And in the end, we'll see if we can put it together and put it out there for free for people to use. So there's that. My big thing for that is going to be making it where it's very easy to port over old adventures, like old AD&D stuff, things like that. All of a sudden, I got a frog in my throat. I don't know why I've only been talking for an hour and 40 minutes. All right, so that is it for this time out. Once again, big thank you to our sponsor, Roll for Combat, and their Year of Titans Kickstarter, which is currently going on. It's going on through December 12th. If you have not checked it out, take a peek. New species each and every month throughout the year of 2025. So if you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, thank you kindly, because not only are you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company. But of course, I know loads of folks out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out to watch any of the over 2,100 videos here on the channel. Really, really do appreciate that. Now, of course, if you like this video, by all means, give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I am on a quest to hit 15,000 subscribers by January 1st, 2025. Can we get there? I don't know. I'm trying. I am trying. But of course, if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. Will not only let you know when the dispatch streams live, it'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as this weekend's review of Dragonbane Path of Glory from my friends over at Free League Publishing. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend. Hope to see you again on next Tuesday. And as always, I also hope all of you out there get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.